Welcome back. Another episode of the We're Young But Just Us podcast, a part of the Sports Opinions podcast network of podcasts. This time around, we have special guest Jake Ostrove. He is a WRSU alumni, class of 2020 this year, and is now writes for ScarletNation.net, which is a part of 24/7 Sports, and host of the new Glass Slipper podcast, which we talk about the origins and episodes so far, which he's done. We talk about the Last Dance tournament, which he's covering, which is a high school baseball tournament during the COVID-19 pandemic. What is it? What's happened so far? And his overall thoughts on the tournament. We also talk about the MLB coming back and their issues with COVID-19, along with the new rules and a roundup of the New York teams, the Yankees and the Mets. Then we talk about the Jamal Adams trade and that effect on the New York Jets and how both teams got a win out of that. And we ended with some Rutgers talk, football, men's basketball, and which superhero is this Rutgers player, because we got to bring it back to comics somehow. So thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Swing drive, right center field. The Braves have won it. Elliott starts right, cuts it upfield, touchdown Dallas. They score! And Reed, it's over! Over for the win. Bam! Got it! And the Scarlet Knights win it! There is pandemonium in Piscataway!
All right, episode 14 of the We're Young But Just Us podcast. I'm happy today to welcome fellow class of 2020 graduate in this crazy time. He's a WRSU-FM alumni, also right now writer for ScarletNation.net, which is part of 24/7 Sports, and he is his host of his new podcast, the Glass Slipper podcast. Jake Ostrove, how you doing?
Doing good, Kyle. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So, yeah, you got a new project, the Glass Slipper. So if you're like me, you're managing 2020 as best as you can coming out of college. I feel that energy. So, and best to do in your free time is just keep creating and doing your own thing. So tell me about the new podcast.
It's an incredible podcast. It's just starting to get up off the ground. We've only had 2 episodes so far, but it's called the Glass Slipper podcast. It's focusing on underdogs, upsets, Cinderella stories, and pretty much just the greatest stories in sports that are told by the unlikeliest of heroes. And that's something that I am very close with. I've always been a big fan of the underdog. I am the underdog in a sense. I'm not the most physically imposing person, and I love to play sports, and I was scrappy, and I had to, I played with my heart, and that's what I wanted to get at, because I think that that's so common throughout all sports, really. I talked to the Rutgers wrestling coach, Scott Goodale, in a tremendous interview a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the rise of his program as kind of like a Cinderella story, but I'm hoping as we get further along, we can start getting into some of the big games, maybe your UMBCs or Florida Gulf Coast making the Sweet 16, Evansville knocking off Kentucky. I'm a big college basketball guy, so and the Cinderella story it's always there in the NCAA tournament. So naturally, I gravitate to that. But there's so much untapped stuff there that I'm really looking forward into getting. But yeah, it's just another 2020 adventure.
Yeah, it all is, and the underdogs seems like civilization right now. We're the underdogs to the year of 2020 itself, and maybe that will be the podcast topic going into 2021 on your show about how we overcame all this.
That's not a bad idea. The people that rise through 2020 stronger than 2019, I give them a lot of credit. I'm doing my best to be one of them.
Yeah, so you basically you explained the love for the underdog, and you had Scott Goodale on, who I didn't realize, just like because the recent success of the program, just how long he's been there, what he built through. Like, yeah, real underdog. You see the gym that they played in the College Avenue gym, is like what he started with and what he built it up. It's a true underdog story. Do you have any cool future guests you got planned right now?
I'm just reaching out to a lot of college basketball teams, hoping to get something to say. It's really tough right now because it's tough to know who's been furloughed, who's not really working, who's working from home. Because I love SIDs, and they've been nothing but great to me over the last few years. But, they're tougher to get in touch with because they're not working every single day. So, I'm actually looking at the Last Dance tournament in New Jersey. The Last Dance World Series finals tonight, and Cranford's kind of come out of nowhere and beaten a lot of powerhouse teams, and it's got me thinking that maybe their coach should stop by, or a player or two should stop by for a future episode, because they're definitely someone that a team that I was not expecting to make it to the overall final, let alone their region final. So I think that's something I'm going to definitely have to explore.
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty great transition right there. So, yeah, we'll definitely get back to promoting that's the Glass Slipper podcast. And, so you like underdogs, check him out. You already had Scott Goodale. He had 2 episodes so far. And so, so it's one I also want to get into, the Last Dance tournament. So, like, for me, who hasn't really been – I would say I've been casually catching a few NJ.com tweets about the tournament and you guys, some of the WRSU folks. So just like for the basic new, what is the Last Dance?
So, I mean, when everything got shut down, seniors lost their season. I mean, we all lost something. You're a graduating senior. I'm a graduating senior. We all lost the end of our senior year, but so many players, so many seniors on these different teams didn't get a senior year. So Mike Murray, who's the athletic director and baseball coach at St. Joseph Metuchins, thought of an idea where he should have this tournament, which was supposed to be like a small tournament that was just going to be a few teams, maybe like a sandlot league almost, that you go and you play a few games and give your seniors one last consolation tournament. And then it blew up. I mean, it got big. 222 teams signed up in a matter of days across the state. And all of a sudden, we were kind of thrown into this madness that was going to be throwing together this tournament. It was very disorganized. It was very last minute, but that was kind of the fun. Tried to embrace the chaos and enjoy it while we could. And I had reached out to Mike Murray because he was the tournament director. I just wanted to broadcast games. Or cover games. I didn't know how to go about doing it. And he hooked me up with Inside Varsity Sports, had me fill out a media credential form and kind of asked around on who was in need of an extra set of hands. And thankfully Inside Varsity Sports was looking for someone. And it's been amazing working with them. I go to the games with the camera. I shoot highlights and do interviews and do stand-ups. And it's been a lot of fun kind of going around the state. I've been down the shore a few times, spent a lot of time in Lakewood. I'd never been to Lakewood Blue Claw Stadium before. It's really nice.
Oh, it's amazing. That's the one thing I miss. I love, of course, going to MOB games, but that too. That's just right by me. And those games are great. That stadium is fun to go to.
Yeah, it's nice. And I'll tell you, I've done a lot of games for Jackson Memorial, really, since I did their first game and a lot of games since. Their fans are loud. They're into it. They're definitely participants in the action. They're not, bystanders. And they make their feelings known. They get on the ump. They try to get in the other team's head. And it's been loud. Like, it's been surprisingly loud. Obviously, we're still capped at, I don't even think it's 500 fans. It's probably more like 350 fans once you take into account players, coaches, media, and staff at the stadium. So even with 350 fans, it's probably been very one-sided towards Jackson, especially. Everything else has been pretty split 50-50, but Jackson's definitely been like 80-20. It's been a lot of fun, and it's going to be a crazy good final tonight. I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome. Offshoot note on Memorial, I worked as a manager for my high school baseball team in Manchester, so we played them a couple of times. They're a different division. You hit a home run at their place. Obviously, you're covering them in Lakewood, but at their place, you hit a home run down the left of your line, you go into the trees. It's a pretty unique setting there. It's like almost they cut out a piece of the woods for their stadium. Offshoot, no fun fact.
They're good kids there, man. I'll tell you, I like Jackson a lot. I like Cranford a lot too, though. I've spent some time with Cranford, who they're playing tonight, and they're good kids, and it's gonna be a lot of fun tonight.
So what is it down to? You said it was 222, I think was what you said?
Yeah.
22. How was it separated?
It was broken up into regions. So the regions were split into 4, 6, or 8 team regions, and there were 32 regions. And what would happen is you would play just a random team based on your seeding in your region on the first day, and then you would play the winner of the other game the next day. And then there is going to be, in most cases, you had 1A and 1B, Region 1A and 1B in two different locations, and then there should be two teams that were 2-0 that would meet up on the third day of pool play, and the team that's 3-0 goes on to the knockout round, and that's how we get 222 teams down to 32. It didn't really work out that way. There were some teams that snuck through. Gloucester Catholic, I know, was 2-1 and got in on a technicality, and they actually relied on some positive COVID tests from I think it was Middletown North, I think.
Didn't I hear somebody? Yeah, I was about to ask.
And Point Pleasant
or somebody pull out of the tournament. I think that might have been
there were
before
two
the
teams.
tournament.
I think Point Pleasant and Middletown North both had to withdraw, and they were both 3-0 and moving on to the next round. And there were a few teams that filled in their place. Gloucester Catholic was one of them, and they went to the South Jersey semifinal. They lost to Bishop Eustace on Tuesday. So it hasn't always worked out that the 3-0 teams are the teams that are going through. But most teams that moved on were 3-0, and it's just been crazy fun since, because now we're seeing some of these really good matchups. I've seen Del Barton Bergen Catholic was really high caliber game. Bishop Eustace Jackson on Wednesday was really, really high caliber. That was a lot of fun. Don Bosco played Governor Livingston and had to mount a crazy comeback. I wasn't at that game, but I heard it was a great game. And we're seeing some of these big matchups. It's been fun to see the matchups that we never see. Like Jackson Memorial would never play Bishop Eustace because Jackson's a public school and Bishop Eustace is a private school. And when you have your different sections and divisions and groups, you don't see these matchups that often. So I think that it's really cool that and you would just expect the private schools to dominate. Your Don Bosco, Bergen Catholic, and Del Barton. But Cranford's the champion in North Jersey, and they dominated through. They beat Bergen Catholic by 10 runs. They beat Don Bosco by 12 runs. They beat Ridgewood, who's a really good team. They're a public school, but they're a really good team as well. They beat them by 8. It's been really, really interesting to see how the tournament's worked out over the last few weeks.
That's awesome to hear. And you and I have brought up, obviously, in the first part of this, we talked about that 2020 and the hardness of, obviously, the graduating class and how we're both graduating for college and entering the new crazy world that we're in. And another fact was that when I was thinking about these spring athletes losing their high school spring athletes losing their season, was the fact that they're not going to get, especially seniors, that extra year of college and pro scouts, especially for baseball, the way baseball works, college and pro scouts looking at them. Has this tournament brought out any eyes on kids that lost their season? Maybe got some pro or college scouts on them. Have they been around to see this?
Well, I mean, as far as the seniors go, they are either decided on where they're going or they're moving on. But we're past the May 1st commitment date, and we're past the MLB draft at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised if one or two kids that are underclassmen, whether they're rising seniors or even freshmen and sophomores, they get some eyes on them from especially college. I've seen there was one smaller New Jersey school that I saw in Montclair when I was in Montclair last week. I don't remember Jersey City State, maybe. Is that a thing? I don't know.
I think it's at Jersey City College. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think
I do know it. I forget the full name.
I saw their guy asking for lineups because he wanted to, check out some of these kids. I don't know if anything's going to come of that, but I think that the best thing about baseball in particular is that we see a lot of kids committing early. They don't, it's not like football or basketball where they wait till their senior year necessarily. Some of them commit as soon as they get an offer that they like. I thought that one of the most impressive batteries that I saw was at St. Joe's, where they had Donovan Zach, who's a sophomore, throwing. He's committed to Virginia. UVA was one of the best programs in the country for college. And the catcher was just a freshman, rising sophomore, and he's committed to Boston College. And they were both really good. So I think sometimes we see stuff like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there comes an offer or two for a few kids that might have been overlooked.
And it is also even if they're not there in person, like as you said, you've seen one one scout. That's more video and more live action games that a lot of athletes didn't have this spring. So that's even that is significant for scouts to see. Another question is, I think the last one regarding Last Dance is, have they been experimenting with any rules or any temporary changes for these games?
They started in pool play by having the umpire behind the pitcher's mound, trying to distance as much as possible, especially when they were going to be doing 2 or 3 games that day. It wasn't great. There were a lot of missed calls and things that I think that if the umpire was behind the plate, they would have gotten right. Specifically plays at the plate, that especially there. But no, it's been pretty straight up baseball. They've been trying to play every single game, and if they can't play, there's only really been one rainout. Last week they had to play on Thursday when they weren't intending to because the games got rained out on Wednesday. But other than that, the weather's really held out. It's been really hot, but it's been nice baseball weather. They're just playing baseball. Some of the other thing that they were trying out, they tried out an extra hitter for pool play. They didn't have a pitch limit on any of the arms, and you can make unlimited defensive substitutions. I don't think that's anything that's going to translate. This isn't an NJSIAA tournament. This is part of the USSSA. Officially but unofficially. This is kind of like it's a standalone tournament that's never going to happen again. So I think that they're just focused on getting players as many reps as possible. They're allowing up to 25 kids on a team, which is a lot for a high school team. I never played on one with more than 17.
Yeah, that's 16. An MLB roster. That's an MLB.
25 is a 25. Lot. But it's all designed to just get kids as many reps as possible, and I think that it's not going to be anything that translates into any coming years. But it's been nice to see, an extra sense of camaraderie around the baseball community here.
All right, so the day this is getting recorded, July 31st, and I believe the finals are tonight. Is it Cranford and Jackson Memorial?
Yep, 7:00 tonight at the Trenton Thunder Stadium. It's going to be cool. All
right, so by the time this comes out, we will have a champion of the Last Dance, definitely. And it will be either Cranford or Jackson Memorial. And since this will be out after July 31st, congrats to either one of the winners. And it's awesome to see high schoolers especially the seniors, getting a chance to have that, obviously, last dance.
I'll tell you, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game. I've never seen a team that can hit with Jackson, but I think that Cranford can. So we might be in for a shootout.
All right, that's going to be in Trenton. Is that a small? I haven't actually been up. Is that a hitter friendly?
I haven't been there in years, honestly. Yeah. It's a AA ballpark. It's going to be, the grass is going to be nice, and it rained a little bit today, but it's clear now, and it's not going to rain. And I think that. I think that if they want to hit, they can hit. There have been a few times in these ballparks where they're minor league, independent league ballparks that I've seen these kids go deep. And that's surprising because I couldn't go deep, especially when I was in high school. I couldn't go deep now. But some of these guys are D1 athletes. I'm definitely not. So I don't know. I'm hoping for a home run or two. Normally when it rains, we see the ball travel a little bit further, the humidity's up, and the ball likes to fly off the bat. So I hope that plays into effect also.
I know it may be 500 feet. I don't know if it's shorter or not, but let's get one of those Jackson or Cranford hits to put it into the Delaware tonight.
I'd love it.
I think it's 500, though, if I remember correctly. I do know.
They could do it. They've got some big boys on us on both teams, really.
I do know it's facing the Delaware, but I'm pretty sure it's 500.
That's pretty far.
All right, so moving up, skipping over college, because obviously there's no college baseball to reference. Going right to MLB, back this last week. The first major topic that is pretty much propped up last night when I wrote my notes, it was just the Phillies and mainly the Marlins, but the Marlins and the Phillies. Now it's the Cardinals and the Brewers. And now we've got developing situations for the Marlins that they're busing people all the way down to Miami from Philadelphia, which is nuts. That's a long drive. I'm pretty sure that the way they're doing it is containing it, and the people that are shouting to cancel, or the hard critics, I haven't seen too many of them about canceling this season or whatever. It's a little far, not crazy out of the realm, but the way they've kind of been handling it is very messy, but it seems they are containing it by quick cancellations of all these games because the Cardinals-Brewers series is canceled. The Phillies haven't played. They still haven't played a game, and, of course, the Marlins are still in their situation. What's your overall thoughts on how the MLB is handling this? Because just like with everything sports-related, everything is messy and on the moment.
I don't think I would have said this a few weeks ago, but I kind of have to give it to Rob Manfred. I've been kind of happy with his response and in quarantining. The Phillies aren't going to play for a week, and the Marlins are going to play for a week. Yeah, as a diehard Yankee fan, I really would have liked to see them play the Phillies, and it's a steep drop from first to second, but I'm a Phillies fan second. My mom's side's all from Philly, and I go to Phillies games plenty with my grandfather.
Beautiful park. Love going.
So yeah, I love the ballpark there. I have a cardboard cutout going there with me and my grandfather from when we went to a game in the 2009 World Series. But
I'm jealous already. Dang.
Yeah, well, the Yankees lost. The Yankees lost. It was Game 5, but it was still cool being there. It's the only World Series I've been to.
Okay, so we'll go 2020. So you would have been the same age. So that was when we were 12 around. So dang, 12-year-old kid expecting to be at the Yankees winning the World Series.
I wasn't. There was an opportunity for it, but it was a happy series of events that got me there. Very fortunate. And it was amazing being there for the World Series. But I think that baseball, Manfred's done a solid job just saying, you know what, let's cancel these games for a few days, make sure everyone's all right, putting players' safety first. Now, there needs to be kind of uniform, this is what we're doing, because I saw that the Cardinals and Brewers are canceled tonight. I think that maybe we should just cancel the whole series, pick it up next week, just make sure, abundance of caution. But I think that baseball is starting to recognize that, you know what, this is a 60-game season, but I don't know if every team's going to play 60 games. And that's okay. That doesn't have to happen. And I think that at the end of the day, as long as teams play 47, 48 games, you can just go on win percentage, really. Just understand that it's a topsy-turvy year that got us to this 60-game season to begin with. And it'll be a miracle, as we're seeing already. We're seeing some struggles early. It'll be a miracle if we can get it through the end. I would love to see it, and I think that we're on our way. But everyone has to just realize that it's going to be different. I'm trying to embrace the chaos as much as possible.
I think. Well, the good news is, as of today, July 31st, the Phillies are currently on the right track. I believe it's their second straight day with no positive tests. But
they've had a few.
The clubhouse staff and a coach.
Clubhouse. But the problem is that players were around that coach. So now the question is, do you hold off an extra 5 days? Or do you just say, okay, well, as long as the players are continuing to test negative? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. But I know that they want to play. And if they still come up negative, then power to them. Let's play ball.
I know you obviously are, by the way you're talking, you agree with me, but I'm definitely on the side of safe rather than sorry, especially when it comes to human beings, which obviously it's tough to remember sometimes that as we're going on with these obviously more, and these athletes speak out through social media, we're seeing that they're human beings just like the rest of us. So you got to be safe and sorry, especially during a pandemic, and we're honestly lucky that they even are playing right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a very risky maneuver, especially the way they're doing it compared to the NBA and NHL.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we're seeing some of the struggles with the non-bubble sports now. And listen, I feel like if the bubble gets hit in the NBA, it's going to get hit much harder than baseball or football would. But I think some of the stories that we're seeing from baseball in this week, they're cautionary tales to football, and especially college football. So I have to be very wary about that.
college football we will get to. Definitely Rutgers talk coming up. The sticker on the MLB. Yeah, so that's a situation that's ever evolving, and but the good news is it seems to be contained. There seem to be containing it. The Marlins are a little messy and concerning right now because it's just a unique situation, and then of course the Phillies are on the right track in terms of testing. Hopefully they can get playing as soon as they can, and then hoping for the best for the Cardinals and the Marlins. Now on to the actual play itself, and obviously sticking to New Jersey area teams. Obviously the Phillies haven't played in a while. They were getting off to a decent start with their bats, but talking Yankees and Mets, I mean, what more can you ask for much of the Yankees right now, really?
It's been awesome. I think yesterday was an exciting game with Judge hitting that home run in the ninth inning. That was a lot of fun. They've stolen a few games. Yankees have been fun to watch. They've been everything that I've wanted to see from them. Stanton's looked awesome. Sanchez has been struggling mightily, but hopefully he gets that figured out sooner rather than later. And every time that Luke Voit needs a big hit, he's getting the big hit, and the Yankees have been great.
I promise you, as I get going with this statement, it's going somewhere. It's just going to start off interesting. So I'm an old baseball freak, and I watch, when I mean old baseball, I mean like late 90s and early 2000s, because that's like my favorite era to watch. And I'm catching up on the 98 postseason. I'm watching that Yankees team, and then it's a lot of leadoff hitters in the lineup, a lot of contact, and that type of line of contact, winning 114 games, and the amazing defense involved. And that's a lot of contact and always being able to get the hit, of course, with some power. With these Yankees, they're very good, but it's a lot of hit. It's hit or miss. This is just like the rest of the MLB. They're going to strike out a lot, but they are going to hit a lot of home runs. Is that formula in the long term, even with the weird postseason going into it, is this a formula that could win the Yankees World Series, or is this something where if they get cold, they're going to get cold?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's a formula to win the World Series. I was just going off about this the other night as I was listening to the game, and Sanchez struck out for the third time, and Gardner struck out for the fourth time. You can't strike out. You can't be homer or strikeout. You need singles. Well, the teams that win World Series have 300 hitters. They have guys that can get on base and steal a bag. Your George Springer hits home runs, and but he also hits singles and steals a base. Those are the type of Trey Turner is a great leadoff hitter because he gets on base and he turns a leadoff walk into a double. And the Yankees have that. Gardner can do it. LeMahieu is the prototype of that. So the Yankees can do it, but so many of these guys, Judge is striking out more. Stanton is known for striking out. Sanchez and Urshela have been struggling. Voit is hit or miss. They need to get it around that they can put one in the gap. They can hit a ground ball up the middle, and that's okay. And once they learn that, they'll be good. But you know what? The Yankees are they are a formidable lineup that, I think that they're built to win a World Series just on talent alone, but they're going to need to find out a different way to do it.
It's comparable because I'm a fan of the Braves, and I'm watching them play, and it's pretty comparable. I haven't caught much Yankee games just from work and going around, but when I've seen the Braves play, I see a similar thing, and it's just the way the MLB is. You have a lineup of flashy stars like your Acuñas, your Albies, your Freeman, but they're called. Like, they really rely on the home run balls, and it's just looking off the bat when I look at the Yankees and teams like the Yankees or the Braves. I can't really say too much about the other teams looking around, but especially those two, it's gonna be like they're really good and they can be really good, but it's like if you throw out the right arms someday, and they're gonna have a lot of long swings, and it's gonna be interesting to see them have to evolve over the year and get some more contact.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to start to see some teams separate themselves. I mean, I know the Rays are good at getting on base. The A's are sneaky good. I think the AL Central is wide open, honestly. The Indians are definitely your front runner with the Twins, but don't count out the White Sox either. I love what they've done. in the offseason, getting some guys that are going to be able to do this. It's going to be a crazy year, and with expanded playoffs and everything, it's going to be a really weird October. But that's okay. That's all right, and I'm excited to see how it's going to go.
All right, and we got to mention them because it's just like as much as the earlier podcast guests I had before the hiatus, they were a bunch. I had a bunch of Mets fans on, so I guess I got to mention the Mets. And I remember before, so this is spring training. Obviously, we were thinking life's normal. February going into March, it's like I was having talks with people on here, and we're saying if you look at them a little bit, they could, and this is just thinking about the normal 162. This is a team that could and shown they could fight in the playoff race. They showed it last year. They still have the arms. We're still looking at them with DeGrom, and they've upgraded. They still have Pete Alonso and some batters. Cespedes is finally back. Do you see from watching the Mets or seeing the Mets, do you see this team that could contend? As they seem like a dark horse going into the year. People always underlook them because they have their issues, but if you look at them closely, this is a team that could fight. And from that first series with the Braves, except for the last game, they seem like they can fight with anybody.
I think the Mets are a top 10 team in baseball, but they're third in their division, if that makes sense. I think that they might be able to get into the expanded playoffs. And you know what? If I were a top seed that has to now choose their opponent, I wouldn't choose the Mets. Because, you know what, I don't want DeGrom. I don't want to see DeGrom. I don't want to see honestly, they're really banged up right now. Stroman's hurt and Syndergaard's hurt. But if Stroman can get back, and Syndergaard's not going to come back this year, but it's just certain guys that have to get right. I think one thing that they need to get out of the way is they have to decide whether or not Seth Lugo is going to be a starter. I think he is. He can give you 6 or 7 innings, quality innings too. Or he can give you 1 or 2 out of the bullpen. That's fine too. But if a team that is hurting for a starter, Seth Lugo is a very easy fix that the Mets aren't paying attention to right now, and he's going to help them out a lot down the road. But they got good bats. They have a decent lineup. I think that they can make the playoffs for sure. And if they get the right things go their way, then things will look really up for them.
It was like, I'm trying to find this on my phone who pitched, because I watched the game. It was who was the oh god, it's bothering me because it was Mats. It was like
you got Mats and you got Waka. They're all right, but if they can give you a few solid innings, then I just don't rely on Edwin Diaz to get the job done.
Oh yeah, the bullpen is going to be they got to figure out the bullpen, because that's obviously their biggest weakness and what cost them their first half of the year last year, and that. And of course, they had the crazy comeback the second half of the year. But all I'm saying is now, laugh at them as you can. Don't sleep on the Mets. Who knows what happens? But as I said before, the year started. If it was going to be a normal 162, outside of the Marlins, that's just a tough division. That's not your weak NL East anymore. Top team at the top. You got 4 contenders.
Yeah, they're a really good division.
And nobody expected the Phillies were going to be the 4th best of those group last year when everyone was picking them to go to the World Series. So, and then throughout, go ahead.
No, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. So going on, wrap up the MLB. We've been a week through. We've seen some of the changes through that. I've seen them through the second Braves Mets game of that last series where we went to extra innings. We saw the extra inning runner. We've seen the universal DH now, and it's in the National League. We're going to see the 7-inning doubleheaders now, of course, because they're trying to, with these teams gunning out for COVID, they're going to try to make up these games, and they want to do it the way the minor leagues have been doing it. It's a lot of minor league rules in right now. And so from what you've seen so far, do you see any of these sticking around? I mean, obviously Manfred's going to try to be Manfred and have his way, but what have you liked so far? What do you think should stay? What do you think should immediately go?
I've been trying to embrace the chaos for 2020. Just be like, okay, well, this is what it is for this year. There are going to be some rules that stay, and whether or not you like them or not. And I don't like really any of them. Like, if I had it my way, you just play baseball. Like, there's really no need to, I think the one thing that's definitely going to stay is a 3-batter minimum in the bullpen. That's something that they've talked about for, I don't know, weeks, years, even about having a 3-batter minimum for coming out of the bullpen. So I think that's probably going to stick around. I think that the expanded playoffs are going to be a bit of a trial. I don't like them. I hope that it's just just in case the team gets off to a slow start, or, with a smaller sample size, maybe a team misses the cut by a game. And so this gives them that opportunity to do so. I don't really know, but I don't like the runner on second at all. I don't really love the 7-inning doubleheaders, but I get the points behind them. So I'm just going to say, okay, well, this is baseball now, and this is what we're going to deal with. I'm happy baseball is back. I'm happy the Yankees are winning. I'm having fun watching. I'm watching a game every day, more than one, more often than not, honestly. And so I'm trying to embrace it and take it with a grain of salt. Just understand that not everything's going to last over into the next years.
Personally, on this end, I think this is the excuse that DH is going to stay. I think there's no way. I think he'd go back.
The DH could stay. I might be. Some fans hate it. I don't really mind it that much. I mean, if you think that, having pitchers hit is a good thing, then you should just watch Tanaka swing a bat for 24 hours straight. And
Mike Fultonevich, too. Greatest swing I've ever seen.
Some of these guys just can't swing. And that's, that's part of baseball. And I like that the leagues are a little different. It adds in a little bit of spice when you get into interleague and the World Series. So if they say universal DH for the rest of forever until they make the next rule change, that's okay with me. But I can see the frustration around some people not wanting it.
Yeah, the more you watch nowadays, like, you don't see, like, obviously you have your Madison Bumgarners and your Noah Syndergaards who could really really swing the bat well, but it's like, it's not what it used to be, where like they would have the decent amount of pitchers would spend the time in the cage. And, like, you had your Maddoxes, your Glavins, your David Cohens, who would just know how to do it. And that was just normal, that if you were in the National League, you could do it. But now even the National League guys just look utterly pathetic out there. So it's like, at times you're like, yeah, it's been in the game for a while, but you know what? What are you losing? A little bit of strategy, but, I was entertained by the games I've seen. I've never said that can't really say it's worse than any National League game I've watched last year.
No, it's not that bad.
It really is not. And personally, I think it's just there's precedent for the playoffs. I think that's gonna go. I don't think the Players Association would have any beef with it, would have any tolerance for that after this year. I don't see how anybody would want to go with that, because I think, as Keith Hernandez and those guys are saying on SOY, was that you're gonna have, in like the NHL, NBA, we're going to have some under 500 teams in eventually. We can, like, for baseball, that's just not right. Like, that there's precedent that baseball really gets the best teams for the most part to go to the World Series.
Yeah, it's very tough to make the playoffs in baseball, to repeat if you're a past champion. It's very tough to do in baseball, and expanded playoffs make it a little bit easier. Hopefully it's just a this year thing, so that, when the Indians go, I don't know,
45 wins.
Yeah. If they get 25, if they go 25 and 35, but they might still be able to get in, and we know that they can make a run.
I think that's not something for baseball. I can't see that. I can't see that.
It's gimmicky. It's for this year. Yeah. I'm hoping that it's just this year, though.
Yeah, I think everyone would not be happy. I'm pretty sure everybody expects it to be this year, because it's just it's different. There's precedent. They had the 81 strike where they expanded the playoffs to 1 year because they were basically 2 separate seasons, so they accommodated. And I think personally they're accommodating right now. I think that's all it's going to be. They're accommodating for the weirdness. And you know what? 60 games. Sometimes maybe cold streaks can last 20 games. Maybe some of those guys with worse records in a 162-game season would be 90 winners. So, you know what? 60 games, why not?
Yeah, it's a shorter season, so.
And that's all the baseball. Baseball's craziness. You can catch that for yourselves and see how it goes. Hopefully we'll have a World Series. And, They kept it open. Maybe the season, it's 60 games. We don't know how long it will last. Maybe we'll go deep in November just as they try to get these games in. We'll see. Couple notes in the NFL. Too much. I think the main one, the one is that obviously no fans for the Giants or Jets. That's pretty much understandable right now at this point. The big news of the last week, of course, is Jamal Adams' drama is finally over for the Jets. And honestly, I think the Jets got rid of him, and it's good. And they got a haul that you couldn't say no to, and it was just, I think everybody, I don't know even if Seattle won. I think the Jets completely won with this.
Yeah, I mean, look, both teams got a really good deal out of this. The Jets got rid of a headache. Who, by the way, the Jets were going to pay Jamal Adams. It's not even a conversation to have this year. It's a conversation for next year. He's still under contract for a few years. So the fact that he's demanding this money since last year just shows how much of a baby he's being about this thing, because he needs to know when it's time. And it's not time. He's going to be playing under his rookie contract for the next 2 years. And then he talked about being a Jet for life. He loves the Jets. He loves the fans, whatever. And then he quit. He quit on the team, plain and simple. And then he said that he would play for 8 teams. Here's my list of 8 teams, and they all made the playoffs last year. And the Buccaneers, who got
Brady and Gronk.
Yeah, they got very much upgraded this year, so they're going to make the playoffs this year, or at least they're trending
Hot
to.
Take, I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know. I could see it. What's Brady going to be without Bill? But regardless, Adams quit on the Jets because he said, you know what? I don't want to be on this team anymore. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go try to win. And I get it. You know what? Like, the Jets don't have a huge success winning. But things are trending up. I really like the Jets. Even without Jamal Adams, I think it's a good year to be a Jets fan. I mean, I say this every year, and then I get my heart broken. But
it really is, because I mean, even with Gase, who I just personally don't think is right.
I don't like Adam Gase at all.
Yeah, I mean, even with the handicap of Adam Gase, they won 7 games. I mean,
and they started 0-6, and they weren't even competitive in the first bunch because Darnold was out, and they had David Fales starting a game. I mean, look, like,
you have a winner GM,
but
a GM who
I
is
love
a winner.
Joe Douglas.
Yeah.
I love Joe Douglas. He knows how to draft. He knows how to shape a roster, and he did a great job with this trade. He wasn't going to trade Adams unless he was blown away and given an offer that he couldn't refuse, and he definitely got that. I mean, he got a starting safety, Bradley McDougald, who has 5 interceptions since Adams has been in the league, and Adams only has 2, but whatever. I don't think numbers like that are really indicative of
safeties. Definitely not safeties.
Definitely not safeties. But secondary in general. I mean, maybe all defense, really, because it's all about, it's disrupting tempo, and it doesn't always show up. I think QB hurries are much more valuable than sacks, but we worry about sacks more.
What's the joke about? I love the joke about. I always hear in video games is whenever you drop an interception.
Yeah,
there's a reason there is not a wide receiver.
Yeah, if they could catch, they'd be playing offense. Hey, I mean, listen, the Jets got 2 first-rounders, a starting safety, and a third-rounder for a guy who didn't want to be on the team and has openly quit on the team. The Seahawks are now in a great position to win the Super Bowl next year, where they bolstered their secondary, and that's what won them their Super Bowl a few years ago. And now they're back to having a good secondary. But the Jets got this was a guy who quit on the team. I call him outwardly a coward. He quit when the times got tough, and he put himself before the team. And, it's a business, and he has the right to demand the money that he deserves, and he deserves the money, but it's in due time. And I'm glad he's gone from the Jets, because now I don't have to listen to him complain anymore on Twitter, and I can unfollow him in peace. and I'm still happy with the Jets. I'm still really happy with what the Jets are doing. And now that the Jets have 2 first-rounders in each of the next 2 years, either the Jets are going to do, and I like Joe Douglas drafting for us. I like him as a drafter, so either he's going to do really well in the draft in the next few years, or he's going to take one of these picks in each of the next 2 years and trade them for great assets to get us to the playoffs and get us to the Super Bowl finally. And I think that's the perfect formula to do it.
And honestly, who knows at this point? This Seahawks core has been around for a decade now. Who knows if they're going to fall off a cliff? That's another question.
I mean, look, you got Russell Wilson, who's a top 5 NFL quarterback, no doubting about that. But their running game's a little iffy. Their wide receivers aren't great. I'm still not really sold on Tyler Lockett, and we've seen guys flourish. I mean, Doug Baldwin, I think, was overrated, and he had one really good year. So maybe Lockett had his good year. I don't really know, but their offense isn't great. And it was a huge reason why they couldn't do more last year. And now their defense gets a little bit better, which is, good for them. But I'm hoping Jadeveon Clowney now comes over to the Jets too.
If I don't know on Jamal, is that I think I 100% lost it with him when he got mad at a GM doing his job. That was the crossing point where I knew he was like in the wrong and whining about it. The fact that he was mad at a GM for doing his job and answering the call. That was the mark.
Listen, you have to listen to calls.
Yeah,
and
that's a GM's job.
They get up in arms about it. So I don't know.
Like he was like literally he said, and Douglas has said multiple times, and that's what only led to this trade. It had to be worthwhile. He wasn't gonna listen. This was worthwhile. No doubt about it.
He could not turn down this trade, and he didn't, and that's why he's great at his job.
Yeah. And so the Jets, they looked like they were on the up last year. They were just looking. I think one head coaching change away from being a contender.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, what we've all been waiting for. Obviously, everyone has been waiting for a little bit of Rutgers roundup. I mean, you have to do it. Have to with the WRSU guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start. All right, let's get the elephant out of the room first. Rutgers football team. I don't even have to say what it is. You know what it is. Well, most years you saying that means something else. But right now in this situation, you know what it is. The news from NJ.com about why they are under quarantine right now. And first thoughts on this whole situation.
You know what? I was really upset. And I would not have wanted to be in the room when Greg Schiano found out. I was disappointed. I know some of the guys, just from covering them over the years, and I still cover them, and they're good kids. They're good kids, and I'm sure that, they had good intentions, and they just got a little ahead of themselves. But I think that that it's a precursor to a problem that I think we're going to see at a lot more schools, because Rutgers is very disciplined. I mean, the players that play for Greg's team, they love Greg, and they view him as a father figure by the end of their time at Rutgers. That's just the way it is. He's a maker of men. And I think that, there might be other cases in other schools where guys are leaving, might say one thing and go do another. One guy says, he's going to go home for a family weekend or a wedding or something, and he ends up just going on a date or going on vacation with his girlfriend, something like that, going away with friends. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see it. It's disappointing that it's at Rutgers, though. That's for sure.
It is, and I don't know what happened at Michigan State. I mean, I don't know if it might have been something similar, because I know they had their issues. And then, of course, we had the Clemson news, but that was at the beginning. But yeah, it's like something you're gonna like. These are college kids living on campus in a time, so it's gonna be a transition, and you're gonna have definitely some of these issues, and it's definitely disappointing to see.
On campus though, Rutgers isn't on campus for the fall, at least. So
that is correct for
so
Rutgers.
Athletes will kind of be in their own bubble of sorts, but obviously it's a city. People can come visit, and you have to limit that.
It's college. It's very messy because it's not the pros. They're not getting paid to do all this. It's just and of course there's no players union, of course. So there's a lot of upheaval and changes it's a lot of changes that, according to, in comparison to the pro leagues, that it's coming from one end. And so it's very, been using the word a lot. I said it with the Marlins situation. I keep using it again. It's my word. It's just very messy, and it could, you never know, be a disaster.
Yeah, I think college football is not really the smartest idea, but if it can be done, it can be done, and that's That's all I'm hoping for. I like the conference-only scheduling. You're betting on yourself where you're saying that, our conference is going to test people and make sure that we're doing this smartly. So I fingers crossed that it can hold out. I think the next question is, how long are we going to pretend like we can play these 9 or 10 games? I think that's really the next question.
Exactly. So as long as we have the schedule, I've seen the ACC first. I'm just assuming because, like with March Madness, it was with the conferences. One did it, everyone else followed. So I saw the ACC one was 10 games plus an in-state opponent. Was that similar for the Big Ten? Because I saw the 10 games.
Yeah, Big Ten hasn't put out a schedule yet. It's just going to be conference only. And I'm thinking off the top of my head, there aren't too many crossovers in the different divisions. The only one that comes to mind is Indiana and Purdue. If they weren't set to play each other, which I'm sure they were, then I'm sure that will be the game added. But otherwise, for Rutgers, I don't know who that 10th game's going to be. I don't know if they're going to go with a team that they just played last year, like Iowa or Minnesota, or if they're going to go with the team that they would have played next year, like Wisconsin or Northwestern. I heard it might be coming out in the next few days, but I think that a lot of people are just kind of just taking their time with this because there's no rush. The next question is to ask whether or not training camp should start on time, which it's supposed to next week.
For the reference, I'm trying to find the reference for the ACC because I think it was the SEC is not doing the ACC thing with the conference, and it looked like the Big Ten
SEC is doing 10 games.
And they're not doing the in-state rule I think they said they can have one non-conference, but they didn't say.
Big Ten's not doing that.
Yeah, Big Ten isn't. I just saw that. Big Ten, so the ACC has a full schedule. They organized their schedule, and they added Notre Dame to it. On Rutgers topic, just for your immediate thoughts, I think obviously it's the circumstances of the situation. What do you think about Notre Dame capitulating their NBC revenue for this? Is that just a shocker to you? Because I was like, wow, they actually did it.
I really dislike Notre Dame as a football program, as an independent football program. I hate it. I think it's pretentious, and I think that they shouldn't be allowed to go to the college football playoff if they aren't a part of a conference. The format right now with 4 teams is supposed to reward conference champions by Notre Dame coming in and assuming a top 5 spot because the AP writers love Notre Dame and the college football, just anyone associated with the media in college football loves Notre Dame, and I don't get it. I wasn't of that time where they were dominant. I've only seen them disappoint because every time they make the college,
grandfathers are.
Right. Every time they make the college football playoff now, they get blown out by 20, 30, 40 points. And it's not fun. It's not competitive. So Oklahoma can have the same line of thinking. They both shouldn't be allowed for a little bit.
Get out of here for a while.
But I've been saying that they should join the ACC for years. They're there for every other sport. Just do it and don't worry about it. They got rid of their NBC deal this year, but you know what? The other option was not having a football season. So
NBC is still there, but they're sharing the revenue with the ACC. So that was something that's like Notre Dame's ego is they're sacrificing their ego to share money. It's the only way they're going to play football.
The other option was no football, so you make no money if you don't play.
Yeah. So they're doing I'm looking at this as like, wow, they're playing 10 teams. Like these teams are, and then this year it's like a change to look at again. It's like, wow, they're playing 10 good teams because they're playing 10 conference teams. Sure beating up on Alcorn State or Indiana State.
Yeah,
if of course the season happens. But that's the topic for a whole nother discussion. So positive for Rutgers, back to Rutgers, is at the schedule after everything's gone down was the old joke being if Rutgers would benefit the most from not having a season played. And the reason why is because of the recruiting trail that he's been on right now. I mean, he's selling the program right now, and pandemic is not stopping the Schiano train right now.
Absolutely not. It's been an awesome few months covering them, and and knowing how far they've come, it's awesome. I saw one guy for ESPN that finally realized what Rutgers had been doing, and he was like, "Oh, it's basically like Rutgers held an expansion draft."
Yeah, that was
there are so many Power Five. There are so many Power Five transfers coming in from in the conference and out. I mean, off the top of my head, Michael Dwumfor is going to be a starting defensive lineman. He was starting at Michigan last year, and Brendan White is coming, and he was a Rose Bowl champion at Ohio State. And it's going to be really, really cool seeing these guys come in and see how they gel with the current players. There's definitely always attrition when you're changing coaching staff. Some players are going to leave. Some players are going to stay. We saw some guys leave. A lot of the wide receivers left. Raheem Blackshear, the running back, left. But you know what? I think we're a lot stronger than we were last year. I was looking at maybe 5 wins before the season got cut to conference only. I was thinking that Rutgers was going to win their first 3 games against Monmouth, Syracuse, and at Temple, and then maybe get 2 or 3, maybe 1 to 3 Big Ten wins. There were some teams out there that I thought Rutgers was capable of beating. Now that it's just a 9-10 game conference-only schedule, you're probably only going to get 1 or 2 wins, but that's all right. Yeah, that's okay. Be more competitive. Don't get blown out 78-0, and just build on for next year, because as strong as the recruiting has been to salvage the 2020 class, the 2021 class is looking really good with prospects of getting even better.
And also shout out, because we said, he said at the beginning, one of your previous guests was Coach Scott Goodale, the wrestling team. Shout out to his family. Shout out to his family. Yep, Zach.
Yeah, Zach just
North
committed.
is coming in. I love the picture when Shiano was hired of his signed footballer jersey from a camp years ago. And now he's going up on the banks when he graduates from Tonsor North. So, yeah, congrats to the Goodale family, of course. So, yeah, let's keep on the trail. And one last thing, of course, I think it's got to mention it. And we're now 5 months, almost 5 months away from March at this point. And we're getting past the feeling, I think, everyone's of heart being broken of not seeing Rutgers in the tournament because of all this. And now we're just, I think everyone's.
You can count yourself lucky about that one.
Nope, you're still okay. We're still. Well, well, the finish. The point was like we're moving on from the heartbreak, and that heartbreak is going to feel the excitement for whenever these guys come back.
You know what? I think that you're absolutely right. I think that what happened in March is going to be something that I tell my therapist for years. I was in Indianapolis when the Big Ten tournament got canceled. We were 10 minutes from tip. It was a surreal day. I mean, let me tell you, when we were on the air and we played a pre-recorded interview, and so we were I wasn't live on the air, and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna run to the bathroom real quick before the game. And as I turned the corner, our setup was just off the main concourse, and as I was going to the bathroom, I could see down to one of the entrances, and they were allowing some fans into the arena. Family members and invited guests from the school. And I could see some Michigan people coming in. And I was like, oh my God, this is like all of a sudden I felt like a charge go through my body because I was really out of it because I knew that we probably shouldn't be playing and I didn't know what was going to be after this game. And I come out from the bathroom a minute later and it's completely dead. The people had completely disappeared. The music had stopped. The video board was blank. And I turned to my friend when I get back to our setup, and he's like, it's over. And that was it. And that was how we ended. And you know what? We really deserve to see Rutgers in the Big Ten and
Damn
the
it, now you brought the
NCAA
feeling
tournament.
back. I was saying we moved on. Now I have the feelings back from March.
Yeah, you think about it a little bit. Yeah. And Rutgers was going to win a few games in the NCAA tournament. I have no doubt in my mind that they were going to win 1, if not 2 games, depending on their setup. In positioning in the tournament, that they were going to be set to win a game or 2 and potentially make the Sweet 16. Now, would they have? I don't know, but it would have been awesome to have seen them in the NCAA tournament. But now, you take that same team pretty much, you lose Shaq Carter and Akwazi Yeboah, and you add in a decent recruiting class headlined by a top 50 recruit, almost top 40, in Cliff Omoruyi, and Rutgers is going to be really, really, really good. I think that, everywhere that I've seen that makes sense has Rutgers in the top 5 preseason in the Big Ten when, honestly, they were ranked 12th preseason last year, and Rutgers showed them wrong. They finished tied for 5th. They finished in 8th, but they finished tied for 5th. Rutgers is returning 7 of its 8 leading scorers and is adding in a top 50 recruit. And I don't think that the conference is – I think the conference is going to be really strong. I really do. But I think Rutgers this year is much better equipped than they were last year, and they won 11 games last year. So I would probably set the bar up even higher, 13 or 14 wins.
So first off, we don't. Either way, it's my Nostradamus thinking. Of course, best case scenario for the country and where the country's at. I think it's going to be, because we have coaches advocating for now. It's going to be a 20 instead of a 2021 season. It looks like it's going to be a 2021 season. I bet that's going to happen.
The thing that I've been seeing is maybe doing a conference only schedule. A 26-game conference-only schedule that starts just after Thanksgiving and goes until early March. And, well, I think that would be so entertaining, because you're not going to see Rutgers play Caldwell or Lafayette anymore, who they beat by 40 points. They're going to play – the Big Ten's a gauntlet. And it's crazy to think that the Big Ten was going to have 10 or 11 teams make the NCAA tournament last year, and I can make the argument why the conference is even stronger. And they might send more than 10 or 11 teams to the Big Ten tournament. And it's even crazier because Maryland isn't going to be one of them. And so the conference is going to be a gauntlet every single night. It's going to be really exciting. No matter what happens, Rutgers is going to be ready to play. It would be really cool to be there. I think if they were allowed to have fans, the rack would be sold out every single game. I have zero doubt in my mind that season tickets and general admission tickets would be gone within a few hours. But I guess that stuff just remains to be seen. We don't know. We don't know what's going to be.
Don't know. I've been hearing different things. Here are my notes. A lot of it was regarding some of the future, some regarding last year. Number one, you did mention Maryland. I think it would be great for the 3 schools, Penn State, Maryland, and Rutgers, like as we saw last year, to have really competitive games. Because I think if it turns out the way it is, I really want to see that Big Ten power shift from the heartland to the Northeast. Because I think those would be some really heated rivalry games that could build up over time and be really good for the conference. To see heated games like that from those 3 teams, those 3 teams specifically, because that could be a triangle of just absolute hate with crazy arenas and fans. And that would be amazing to see. And it was great to see, especially Penn State, come back and just sustain their – I mean, not great. Penn State stinks. But but to see them compete and have great games, Rutgers being back and then Maryland being really good. It's just those 3 teams, if they could have sustained rivalries, the Big Ten would be set, especially in the Northeast, which would have been was a question. Could they get some good rivalry games in? Question would be answered. Number 2 involves feeling bad, of course, for Jerry Carito basically solidifies the entire state of New Jersey. Was you get the feeling of the Montreal Expos in '94 for the entire state. Like there's nobody left unattended in the state in terms of sadness when it comes to that tournament being canceled, because there was just a lot of magic and we got robbed of potentially. Yeah, we had the Rutgers Cinderella. I think we also got robbed of seeing the best player in the tournament potentially see if he could take over the tournament too. And I feel bad for the entire state, and it just would have been bonkers for New Jersey in March.
I think it would have been really cool to see Rutgers in the NCAA tournament, but the best thing is that this was just a glimpse into the success that Steve Pikiell is going to have at Rutgers. His recruiting is turning up. I really like Cliff. I think he's going to be the best thing is that he's not your prototypical top 50 guy. He's going to take a little bit of maturing. His body's a little lean. He can't really shoot, so he needs to size up with some of these big guys. It's not often that freshmen can come in and start in the Big Ten. The exceptions would be guys like Kofi Coburn, who's 290 pounds, and Cliff is not 290 pounds. He's on campus now, and he'll add hopefully like 15, 20 pounds of muscle during his freshman year. And he has time to be a freshman, though. This is going to be a good team where he can be a role player. And that's really exciting when a top 50 recruit is going to be a role player. I think every Rutgers fan knows how much pressure goes onto the weight of the best player, especially when it's a freshman. That's intensified. I think that was exemplified with Mike Rosario in 2008, was it? 2000,
I think around, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Rosario was this big recruit. He was even higher touted than Cliff was, but all the pressure was that Mike Rosario was going to be the savior. And, well, he couldn't really hack that. He didn't like that. So he left for Florida where he knew he can win. And, you know, Cliff doesn't have that anymore. He has time to be a freshman. He's allowed to make mistakes and grow as a player. The savior has brought it on himself or themselves. I don't really know if there's one savior, but Geo Baker and Ron Harper Jr. have accepted the responsibility, donned it upon themselves that they want to be the guys to take Rutgers out of the cellar, and they've done a great job to doing that. And
especially Geo. He puts it on. He's like, give me the pressure, put it on my back. I will carry you if we need to.
The best thing about Rutgers in 2020, 2021 is going to be that Rutgers is going to have the best finisher in college basketball in the country. I think that 2 seconds on the clock, one guy's got to take the shot. I'm taking Gio over anyone else in the country, no doubt in my mind. And that's never been the case.
Too. That's the reason, too. He wants it. Like, he's not going, give me it because you have to. Give me it because you have to. No, give me it because I want it. I can, and I will do it, and he's shown he can and will.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to be the guy. Ron's very capable of making those shots. Caleb as well. Miles, if it's a one-possession game, he's not shooting a three. Montez can make a shot, too, if he really wants to. They can spread the wealth, and it doesn't all fall on Gio's shoulders. I think one thing that was very telling on how good this team was going to be was when Gio went down in January. And Rutgers played at Nebraska and home against Penn State. And Penn State was ranked, and they won both of those games. And everyone was like, holy cow, Rutgers just beat a ranked team without Geo Baker. What does this mean? And what it meant was that Rutgers was going to have a pretty magical year. And it was really cool. You know, if we ended the season just on the last two regular season games, if that's how the season ended, no heartbreak at the end, but we just finished it with Maryland and Purdue. I mean, those few days, if you just take, the feeling around campus, the feeling that I felt and the players and everyone felt from those 5 or 6 days, and that feeling just can bring me happiness for a very, very long time.
And those guys are going to be hungry. They know that they were good enough, and they want to show the world that they are good enough next time around. They're definitely going to be hungry for that.
Yeah, they're very hungry. They're more motivated. They know how to do things a little bit better. They're growing up. And the best thing is that their core is juniors. I mean, Gio's a senior, but you have 4 really important juniors that have been seeing significant minutes since their freshman year. I mean, Ron will be a 3-year starter. Montez will be a 3-year starter. Miles will be a second year, but he was playing a lot his redshirt freshman year. And Caleb has been called upon, and he's responded beautifully at times.
And let's not forget about the unsung hero, and it only shows how that team's going to get better in terms of passing was Mulcahy. I mean, the fact what he was doing as a freshman in terms of unselfishness and knowing, like, hey, you know what, I really can't shoot that well right now, or hey, I'm not really hot right now. You know what? But I will pass the absolute crap out of this ball because I can move the ball really well, and we could really be a part of this. And that was him as a freshman.
I think one thing that's very clear about the whole team is that they can pass the ball. I mean, Gio has great assist numbers. Paul has great assists, especially to turnover ratios. Paul's got I watch Paul Mulcahy, and I'm like, okay, this guy knows basketball. He has an absurdly high basketball IQ, which, I mean, I've coached a little, but when I played, I focused on basketball IQ, just knowing the game. If you couldn't do something in a certain situation, how would you get someone else to do that too? But, I think that guys are taking bigger steps each year. Geo Baker has accepted a certain responsibility upon himself each of his first few years. Ron has done that too, and Miles has taken steps each and every year. He had a very, very quiet 8-8 year, and he's done that against the Big Ten's bigs, which I think that they have the best assortment of bigs in the country. Your Luka Garzas and Daniel Oturus and Jalen Smiths. They're NBA caliber players that he's going up and doing well against, holding his own against. And now a lot of them are gone. I mean, Oturu's gone. Jalen Smith is gone. Luka Garza is back. Xavier Tillman might be out the door. Daniel Oturu might be out the door. Kobe Coburn might be out the door. Now it's time for Miles Johnson to step up and decide that he's going to be one of the premier bigs in the Big Ten. And that's really exciting. And honestly, he might be one of the best passer on the team too. He's a really smart kid.
I mean, obviously the engineering major, he's a smart guy, and it shows.
He's very smart. He's very smart. He plays basketball with his brain, not his body. And I think that goes a long way in out-muscling and out-thinking, outwitting the opponent. And Miles is a great guy. He's really easy to talk to.
Awesome. I really hope Oturu is gone, because I don't know how many more times in the rack I can hear Oturu.
Oturu, he came to the rack in January, and he got rattled. Like, I'd never seen a guy get rattled that much visibly at the rack all year, because he ended up having a solid game, getting up near 20 points.
Yeah, that's the second half I'm talking about. All you could hear is all Minnesota half scored, and then Minnesota would score in the second half, and all you'd be hearing is it's Oturu.
Yeah, but the first half, he was so rad. I remember that. I remember so vividly that coming out of a timeout, someone from behind me in the student section yelled something at Oturu, and he looked at him. Oturu looks at him, and you can see, like...
That's when you're rattled.
It wasn't like he was looking at him like, oh, you want to mess. He looked frightened. And then immediately afterwards, off the inbound, Jacob Young drives through and slams it down, drives right past Oturu and slams it down past him. And everyone was like, holy cow, like this is supposed to be the best guy that Minnesota has. This is an NBA caliber guy. Like, whoa. And Rutgers was getting to him. The rack was getting to him.
That's what the rack does. And number 5, according to CBS, a little bit low. I didn't like Kentucky on there. It's just, I've been there. It's a cavernous building. It's big. It's not like the others that were on the list, but the rack is showing, man. And
it'll get there. If Rutgers can continue the success that I think that they're going to have, because I think that last year kind of set the precedent. You know, you got Cliff Omoruyi coming in this year. You've got Jaden Jones coming in next year. He's not even a Jersey kid, but he's a 4-star kid. He's 6'8". He's a little leaner than Ron, but he's got similar height, but he can shoot. He can shoot the lights out of the gym, and he's coming in, and he can play a guard. He can play anywhere from the 1 to the 3 or 4, honestly. And who knows what's going to be after that? I mean, there are a lot of really highly touted, especially in New Jersey, recruits that Rutgers is in the running for, and that's really exciting. I don't know who's going to come and who's not, but if they did, something can really be built at Rutgers for a very, very long time.
It's funny to think about, and the sleeping giant of a building that was, I forget who John Rothstein was always quoting, who said it was like Zagoria. Zagoria was saying that it was the sleeping giant of all arenas. But it used to be, it was like, you know what, you keep it close, the rack might win the building for you. Rutgers doesn't have any of that skill, and you know, you play in the rack, the building might help you win that game. Now you got the players and the building.
One thing I've always known as a guy growing up a Rutgers fan and being around the rack, and I've seen it get loud, not nearly as loud as it did last year, but one thing that I've learned over especially the last year was that this has always been the fear of coaches. Jim Calhoun, legendary coach for UConn, said back in the day, you know, even when Rutgers wasn't struggling, he knew. Jim Calhoun said, you know, his biggest fear was if Rutgers got good, because then the rack becomes a weapon. And now Rutgers is good, and Jim Calhoun's prodigal son, Steve Peichel, is the one leading the charge. And it's between Greg coming back and things turning up for football. Now, that'll take a little bit of time, but I think that Rutgers will get back to some semblance of competitivity. And the way that Rutgers basketball is right now, it's a great time to be a Scarlet Knight.
It is going to be up and up. It's going to be an interesting time to watch, and it's going to be fun to watch. I'll tell you that much. I get much better than the stuff we have seen. So let's end this on a good talk so far. I'm glad to have you as long as I have. We're going to end this on a fun note. This is both a sports and comic podcast because I do a lot of both interviews. So I got to mix and match. I'm going to give you not a rapid fire because you can explain why you chose it. But I'm going to give you some Rutgers guys, past and previous, and just like what superhero comes to mind. It's like, yeah, and they're this guy. And I think I'll start out with maybe the softball of it. Geo Baker. Like, who is he?
Geo Baker is Iron Man. He is a guy who has really no connection to the world that he's placed into, but has accepted the responsibility that he's going to be the hero. You know, Tony Stark is a guy that is just a millionaire and makes this suit to fight against evil. And Geo Baker, and Tony Stark's very selfish. Geo Baker is not selfish. Geo Baker accepts the responsibility like Tony Stark would. I think that's a pretty good comparison there, because Geo Baker, he's a New Hampshire guy who went to Rutgers because he saw an opportunity to start for a Big Ten program and maybe make something there. But since he's come, he's added 45 pounds of muscle. He's turned from he was 414th in the country when he was recruited to Rutgers, and now I think that I think he has an outside shot at the league. Honestly, the NBA. I think he has a shot at getting drafted. To be honest, he's got tremendous size. He's got the weight now and the muscle. He's 6'4" as a point guard. He can play off the ball too. He's got good vision. He's not just a scorer, and he's a great finisher. That's probably not a first-round guy. I think that, you know, when I look at Geo Baker, I look at him more of like a Jalen Brunson, just a guy who's really good, that knows how to win. And Geo Baker's taught himself how to win, and I think that's really, really important.
Geo Baker, he's the Iron Man. He builds his own success. He's I can't say the line. I forget what the philanthropic entrepreneurial genius playboy billionaire. I forget the order it goes in. All right, here's one. One of the stars of the football team, unsung, or not really, obviously in a 2-10 year, it's tough to see, but you know what? He's a guy that Shiano is going to love to have, Isaiah Pacheco.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Isaiah Pacheco is the Hulk.
He's the
Isaiah
Hulk?
Pacheco he's a very friendly guy. He's a very nice guy, but he plays mean on the football field. I mean, he's a thick guy. He's not, you know, he is very muscular. He is heavy for his weight, but he can run fast, and he will bowl you over. There are no easy tackles with Isaiah Pacheco, and I think that, you know, that easy, you know, friendly giant. Miles Johnson, I think, could be the Hulk also, honestly, but Pacheco is definitely your friendly giant. He's a nice guy that has a lot of strength behind him when he gets on the field.
All right, so we got the Iron Man, Hulk. We're already starting to build the Avengers here in Piscataway. So here's one for you. Unsung hero of the Big Ten, but, you know, she got recognized, and she's a star for a really good team. Rilla Garantes, star of the women's basketball team.
Rilla Garantes, man. All right.
Hey.
I mean, she's phenomenal. She is going to be I don't know how she did not win Big Ten Player of the Year, but she will. She will next year. I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like I don't want to disrespect Rilla Garantes by giving her like a Hawkeye. Like, she doesn't miss. Like,
she's Hawkeye.
But I feel like Hawkeye's too minor of a character for her, you know? Like,
Hawkeye rules. Don't know. Hawkeye rules.
Okay. So if you're a Hawkeye guy, then I think that, you know, then a Hawkeye might be a solid, you know, fine for her, because she doesn't miss. You know, when she's called upon, and she's called upon a lot, she won't miss. She's just so skilled. She just has so many ways to get you. She can shoot the three. She can dribble. But if you look at Rutgers' stat leaders over last season, and she was up there with points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. It was just everything. And percentages, too. Free throw percentage, 3-point percentage, field goal percentage. She's an unbelievable player. I'm so glad she's staying an extra year, because now she gets like a real opportunity to be a star in the Big Ten. And and C. Vivian Stringer is just a tremendous coach, and hopefully they can get to the NCAA tournament and make something real out of it.
All right, so we got a whole bunch of Avengers here. We got a good team. I mean, who's going to stop Rutgers?
I'm not a crazy big.
I know I'm not criticizing
superhero guy, but I've seen the Avengers, so that's definitely where I lean to initially.
I know. All right, here's a curve. I'll say it again. Here's a curveball here, just because I want to throw someone older into it. Brian Leonard. I know you got to be, obviously. Every
obviously.
Rutgers guy loves Brian Leonard.
Brian Leonard was probably the first football player that I knew. Growing up, I went to a game of his of Rutgers, and it must have been 2005. And he played UConn, and he jumped over a UConn guy, and his famous Leonard leap. And I've gotten to know him a little bit over the last year. I met him at the 150th anniversary. There was a thing in downtown New Brunswick that they had a panel, and Brian Leonard spoke on that panel, and I got to talk to him beforehand, and he's a really nice guy. Where would he fit, though? That's really tough.
Hurdles. Okay, I'll try to help you out. So he jumps over. He just leap. You know what?
I mean, are you thinking Spider-Man?
You know what? He fits Superman. Leaps tall bounds.
Sure. Yeah. You know what? He was kind of.
He's got speed. He had speed too.
He does have speed, and
he's a big human being.
Yeah, he's a big guy. But Superman's a good fit for him. I was thinking, I think Superman's a good spot for him. He's kind of that first. He was the first guy that really started to make those inroads. He was the focal point on that 2005 when they finally made a bowl game, and then 2006, and we know what happened after that. He was kind of that focal point, and that's exactly what Superman is. And they're both very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, dude it leaps tall bounds faster than a speeding bullet. When he got out there, you weren't catching him. All right, last one. Good to end this on. And this might be I have something in mind for this, but you can go on ahead and see what you come from this. Greg Schiano, the head of the head of the Heat, top of the mountain here.
Well, I mean, he's got to be what's his face, Nick Fury.
Nick Fury. All right, I'm surprised. That's even better than one I had. Yep, better.
He's the mastermind behind everything. He brings in guys that especially in the last few Spider-Man movies, when Spider-Man's like, I'm not ready for this. I just want to be a kid. And then Nick Fury is like, no, you're going to do this. Like, that's what Greg Schiano is. He takes these guys, especially when he was building the program the first time, he took these guys that were under-recruited, that were 3-star guys, maybe even 2-star. Devin McCourty was a 2-star. And Jason wasn't so highly recruited either. And he's like, nope, you know what? Now you're going to start for us, and you're going to be amazing. And he made them amazing. And I think that Nick Fury, is kind of that puppet master also.
All right. I mean, that's even better. I was thinking of Charles Xavier, the leader of the X-Men. I was like, that's even better. No, that's even better. Nick Fury is an even better example. I was thinking Professor X, the brains of the organization. But you know what? Nick Fury, then that description fits it absolutely perfectly. And we get to see that again, those 2 stars, 3 stars. Yeah, he's going to get those shiny recruits coming in. But you know what? Even in the Big Ten, it's going to be those 3-star guys that he's going to mold, that he's going to help mold and show their potential and unleash their potential. It's going to be the same thing again. All right, man, let's end. It's been a great hour and a half, I'm pretty sure, even with the technical difficulties. Yeah. And I'm really glad to have you on. So, tell me again, let everybody know about the Glass Slipper podcast and all the other work you're doing right now and where they can find it.
Yeah, just check out my Twitter at Jake Ostrove. It's my first name and my last name, and I post everything there. Hope to be getting the Glass Slipper podcast back underway shortly and more smoothly. And now that I've been busy for the last few weeks, it's been tough to find a time covering The Last Dance, but that ends tonight, and then I'll be back to where I was before, looking for a full-time gig, just like I'm sure a lot of us 2020 graduates are.
I feel that.
Yeah, just check out my Twitter, and I think that's where I post everything. I love to tweet out, especially professional stuff.
Just beware of him if Jamal Adams ever says anything again. As much as he says he's going to stay away from it, you never know who's going to retweet it and stay away from him from the Yankees games. All right, and this has been the We Young But Just Us podcast, a part of the Sports Opinions podcast network of podcasts. And you can find that main page on at Sports Opinions 30 on Twitter. Of course, this can be found like every other podcast, the Questa Dose, the main Sports Opinions podcast, Personal Foul Playbook. That's all going to be on any app you listen to, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spreaker. And you can check me out at K-Doc_52 on Twitter, where I'll be having a lot of nonsense on there, especially with the Braves back and going. And as I find new comic books to read, I'll share those weird opinions. Again, thank you for listening, and enjoy life, man. Stay positive.